Good morning, everybody. My name is Em, and I am your friendly neighborhood yogi.
This video is going to be so long.
I like to share my experience, strength, and hope regarding my daily yoga practice with all of you in the hopes that you will be encouraged, inspired, and perhaps even begin your own journey to enlightenment. Believe it or not, all of us enter this journey, this space of realizing enlightenment the moment we are born. Once we take our first breath outside of our mother's womb, we become one entity with the divine spirit. Of God, the Holy Spirit, the entity which gives life to every living being on earth. How we interact with this life and this spirit is completely up to us. We are the only creatures created with free will. Therefore, unlike the animal kingdom, who automatically recognize their duties every day, they wake up, they want to go for a walk, they want to exercise, and then they'd like to eat, and they're ready for a nap. And they might nap all afternoon, or maybe they want to go explore again for a while and have some free play. They might enjoy chewing on a bone, some mental stimulation. They're probably going to groom themselves at some point throughout the day during their rest period. And as they do that, they might fold their body into silly looking positions and sniff themselves and lick themselves and interact with their bodies. Maybe they'll huff and breathe in a certain manner to cleanse. Oftentimes we chuckle when we see them engaging in this behavior. It seems silly. We have a free mind. Why would we risk looking so silly? We don't know because we can't see. We can't see the fact that our body picks up energy from people that we know or don't know, just literally whoever we are around. Places that we go to, we can pick up random energy. We can pick up the energy of the space. Maybe if you ever walked into a Spencer's or a Hot Topic, you realize that space has a very strong energy, much like Hollister, Abercrombie and Fitch. It's overwhelming and you're like, wow, I'm here in this space. We pick up those energies and we carry the energies with us in our body. Maybe if you've been to a concert or a spiritual service where the music has been exceedingly uplifting and your body just feels light and you're moving and you have a transformational experience. Energy that we pick up and carry with us. Energy can be positive and energy can be negative. Positive and negative energy exist all around us all the time. It's necessary for positive and negative energy to exist all around us all the time. That's how structures stay together. Everything that is positive must have a balancing negative. However, because we have free will, we have the ability to manipulate that balance within our own bodies. Crazy, isn't it? Today is March 1st. The date is 3/1/2022, and in numerology that reduces down to the number 1. Number 1 is great for a fresh start. Now tomorrow is March 2nd, and on March 2nd we have a new moon in Pisces. Pisces is a feminine, soft, watery energy. Every new moon offers us an opportunity to begin anew, to set a new intention, to begin a new practice. Whatever it is, the new moon is an excellent time for us as human creatures to engage with ourselves, reflect on the past 30 days, notice what we have magnified in our life, and maybe what we're ready to let go of. The Pisces moon is specifically water related. Pisces is a water sign. I have a Pisces right here tattooed on my arm. And I love that right in front of it, it says Divine Feminine, because again, Pisces is a very feminine energy. A lot of y'all know, you can tell just by looking at me, that my heritage is very Nordic. I come from the Eastern European region of the world. Our mystical spiritual practice is seen as witchcraft. One of the practices of my ancient people is runestones. The rune for this specific moon that is speaking out to me is Laguz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Several generations away from the actual ancestors. This rune is an L shape, lowercase L shape, and it signifies a body of water, maybe a lake, maybe a pond. This body of water can signify things shifting and changing like a river, can signify stagnancy, something that's sludgy and not moving, like a pond growing bacteria. Maybe it needs to be cleansed out. Now, let's talk about the human body and how the human body relates to water. The human body is 66 to 70% water. I find those numbers fascinating because 66, when reduced in numerology, comes down to the number 3, which is a perfect number when we consider God and the Trinity. There's several images of the Trinity in nature. And I find it fascinating that our body, being 66% water, relates to the Trinity by the number 3. Of course, the number 70 reduces to the number 7, which is a perfect number. We are a perfect creation. Now, the other thing to just note is that the moon controls the tides. So on this earth, in the physical realm, the moon influences bodies of water on this planet. That means that the moon influences our bodies. They are made primarily of water. Now, I was watching something earlier today that said that the full moon deeply affects the mind, and it will affect mentally unstable people more so than it affects mentally stable people. And I'm curious, I'm not sure. Who is mentally stable in 2022? Would you like to stand up? Please leave a comment below. I want to get to know you. How are you mentally stable? What do you classify as mentally stable? How do you maintain that stability?
I want to know.
I know I'm not. I can certainly project this image of a kind, gracious, peaceful homemaker, yoga teacher, community servant. I can do all of those things. And I am that person. I am also a deep, dark, brooding monster who loves to place judgment on herself through projecting it onto other people. Now, reverting back to what I was saying earlier about our bodies being energy and collecting energy, oftentimes when we struggle with neurodivergence, whether it be ADHD, autism, Asperger's, there's an entire spectrum, and there are many different levels on that spectrum. I'm on that spectrum for sure. Being empathetic, in my opinion, puts you on that spectrum. It means that, again, we collect those energies and we store them in our bodies. We might not know how to get rid of them. When the moon gets full, maybe we get overwhelmed because we have all of this excess energy that we're holding on to that we've not been able to release. And we don't know what to do with it. Maybe you know someone like this in your life who has these crazy mood swings, and you're like, what is going on? Maybe it's your kids and you're like, why are they so feral? Oh yeah, it's a full moon. Maybe if you're struggling yourself with not knowing why your moods are going like this, you could begin a practice of just noting the moon. On my watch, I have the moon in its current phase. If I'm struggling identifying why I feel a certain type of way, or I feel a certain sense of urgency, I might just check and see what part we're in, because I recognize that a big part of my energy, how intense it is, has to do with how big the moon is and how much it's rising inside of me. Something to pay attention to is that when the moon is waxing, when the moon is getting bigger, so during this new moon phase, we're going to go into a waxing phase as the moon grows larger. This is the time when energy increases. So if we are working with the moon, this is the time when we want to increase our intentions, increase our efforts, increase our focus. If we want to reap a specific benefit, we've got to put in that specific effort. If we're not necessarily in tune with the moon, this might be a time when we accept a lot of stress and chaos into our lives. Maybe we feel exceedingly rushed. We feel like we have to get all the things done right now. Maybe we feel that we have to solve all of our problems right now, or we have to have all of our confrontations right now. Noticing if we are in a space of chaos and we're not necessarily sure we want to take the next step forward of creating more chaos, maybe we want to pause, check the moon and say, oh, it's high. I could sit my butt down and just let emotions express their way right out of my body. Maybe I need to do some self-care. Maybe I need to journal. Maybe I need to reflect. Maybe I need to take some deep breaths and just practice getting it all out. When the moon is waning, perhaps we will feel chronic exhaustion, like we just cannot keep up with everything. This is a great time to recognize the seeds are sown, and that was a lot of work to prep the fields, to sow the seeds, and now we have a couple days to rest, and then we'll go back out to the fields and we'll pick the weeds. But we're going to take time to rest because we just had energy push. So when the moon is waning, this is a great time to schedule a massage, to schedule self-care, to restore and reset the body. On the new moon, it's an excellent time to set an intention to begin again, fearlessly stepping into your personal intuition, recognizing that as you're working with the breath every day, resetting your nervous system, maybe performing fascial stretches, to reset your body and your posture on a regular basis. Maybe you recognize this resets your anxiety and allows you to step into your true self, to trust your choices. It gives you a pause before you jump into that confrontation, before you jump into that choice, or before you are bogged down by indecision. Engaging with that nervous system. Setting a reminder on your watch every new moon, set that intention to engage with the breath. And then beginning to lengthen that practice for a week, for 10 days, for 21 days, start a new habit. And then let it become your life every day. Starting the day, continuing the day in prayer and meditation, coming into alignment with the spirit, the breath of life, calming the nervous system, the operating system for this human creature. That way we know that God is living right here in our heart, bringing us peace and presence in each present moment. We can love ourselves and we can trust the messages that we receive. Now, again, if we are living outside of this spiritual space, it's important to recognize that our fascia still functions the same way. Our body is still going to pick up these energetic vibrations from people, places, and things. And if we don't tune in and pay attention to them, it's going to bog down our system. Maybe we begin to gain emotional weight. This is weight that we cannot lose through diet and exercise. Maybe we're gaining mental weight, guilt on top of shame because our body is changing and we're putting our attention on outside things like work and success and being a perfect family picture, and it's too much weight and we just can't control it anymore, and we have a burnout, and one thing falls and then the other shoe drops, and then we're in disease. When we give ourselves unrealistic expectations, we tune out. We use our free will to say, no, I can work my way around it. I don't need to connect. I've got my relationship with God. You know, I go to church on Sundays. They're very grateful for my donations. I'm really active in my Christian community. I go to Bible study. I'm working on patience with my children, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's doing a lot. Have you taken a breath today? That's how I started. Literally, I let go of all of those things. I let go of church. I let go of rote prayers. I let go of, I have to. Here. And I started living here. Sensation flows through the body like water. We need to learn to tune in to those ripples. We can recognize that we can feel sensation in our bodies at any time, any place. This can be a positive sensation, this can be a negative sensation, and the only thing that truly shifts the sensation is our interaction with our breath. When we inhale, we begin with a gentle inhale and we just note tension. We pause at that tension and we notice, where am I clenching unconsciously? Where have I not been paying attention to that I'm like rigid? Now that I know that I'm holding it there, can I let it go? And maybe the first time we don't have this massive shift, and that's okay. We've probably been holding ourselves like this for a very long time. Did you know that your body is craving a hug? And not just a quick side hug, not just two bodies humping together. That's not intimacy. Your body is craving love, heart to heart space that's just connection, pure connection. And when we don't get that connection from other people, we turn inward. And maybe we start to believe that we're not worthy of that connection, and we cut ourselves off from society, from people. Obviously, we can't survive in this world without showing up for work, so we have a mask that we put on to wear on the outside. But on the inside, we close our heart off and we just play in this world with our minds. It's a frustrating space to be in, but a lot of us live there and don't know anything else. And so it takes time. It takes time to learn how to lift the shoulders up. Take a deep breath. Squeeze the shoulder blades behind the back and open the chest. This is a difficult task for modern society. You can see my sternum right here. Those bones are poking out. Do you want to know why? Because I am used to rounding forward. And all of this fascia has gathered up here to clench me forward. It just holds me there now. This has become stagnant, dehydrated tissue. And so every day, I gotta wake it up, squeeze it, breathe into it, bring the breath up here to open those tissues, and on the exhale, I let my body settle and rest. What that does, it rehydrates our tissues. When we put pressure on our fascia, it creates hyaluronic acid inside of our body, and that creates the glide, which enables our nervous system to send the signals without distraction throughout our body. And maybe as we do these exercises and these stretches, we feel tiny like clicks and cracks in our bodies. If we've been to a chiropractor, we would understand that this is our body releasing stuck spots, releasing dehydrated fascia. When it gets clenched like this, like Velcro, and it can't go anywhere, it needs deep breath and alignment, and then pressure to break up those tissues and allow them to glide again. When we do not perform this exercise, our fascia stays dehydrated. We can drink all of the water that we want to. It's not going to hydrate those spots because they're now stuck. They've created a pond, and bacteria and toxins now have a space to grow. Maybe cancer cells multiply there. I'm telling you, ladies, clean your armpits out. Squeeze and release. Such an important practice. You can start by putting your fist right under there and just working your arms up and down. Inhale up, press into the sides, exhale down, keep those shoulder blades together. Whoo. Inhale up, squeeze those shoulder blades together, press the arms down, pull the hands out. Ooh. It might be tender at first, it might be tender a lot. There's a lot of lymph nodes here, so you want to be gentle. You're not trying to hurt the body, we're trying to help the body. When we go too hard and too fast, The fascia is scared. Our fascia can withstand up to 2,000 pounds of pressure. 2,000 pounds of pressure is a lot. It's a lot. And inflammation in our body can feel like immense pressure around our lungs, around our liver, around our stomach, and around our intestines, around our ovaries, and around our uterus. These areas need to be massaged. Our vagus nerve, which comes up the right side of the body, needs to be massaged. The vagus nerve innervates and the messages and signals that go from our brain throughout our entire body. And when it becomes inflamed, which is daily, through chronic stress, and a lot of us are right-handed, and so it's our dominant side, it reduces the amount of freshly oxygenated blood flow that we can get to our brain. This causes a whole bunch of issues, but long-term damage is dementia. So it's just a wise idea to daily give yourself a little massage on the right side of the neck and engage with those tense spots. Press into it with the fingers and take an inhale, and imagine bringing that inhale all the way up to your fingers, and then on the exhale, sink into that stretch. Allow the shoulder to soften. Bringing mindfulness to this space allows the tissues to do what they already know how to do. They're programmed to heal themselves. They just need us to push the button. The word lunatic, lunacy, comes from lunar, the word for moon. We don't necessarily, as human beings, understand why we act out the way that we do. And oftentimes it is because we are not aligned with the cycle of the moon and the energy of the divine spirit. I was given the first name Emily because diligence was a highly valued trait in my parents' eyes, and the middle name Jean because I was the fourth daughter and my father was ready for a boy. He wanted to name his son after him. He wanted to name his son John, and I was the fourth girl, and they just were not sure if they were going to have any sons. And so my middle name is Jean, and it means God is gracious. I was named after my father. My last name is Chamberlain. That is my father's name, and that name means servant. It is of an English etymology, as well as my chosen surname, Hall. This name also has an etymology of the Eastern European region and means spacious residence. I find it truly fascinating today, on the eve of a new moon in Pisces, this intention that from the day that I was born, I was given a mission by my parents and by society to fit the image of Emily Jean Chamberlain, to be a diligent little servant to the capital colonial society. If you know me, you recognize I'm not down with the patriarchy. Sure not. But I was raised to be. I was raised within those walls. And I believe that a lot of harm has come to women within those walls. If we think about the witches that were burned in Salem, who led that? Who led that charge? And did they care if they had proper evidence before they mutilated, humiliated, and murdered woman after girl? Just curious. What's the real lunacy? Speaking of, Lyra got me this book at the thrift store. We are both big thrifters. It's called Hexing the Patriarchy. and it's so cute. She got it for $1, which is like bomb. I was reading the section on lunar love, and if you happen to read it, you'll see some reflections. I find it very fascinating how the patriarchy, specifically Protestants and evangelical Christians, I'm not going to say all of them, but it's hard to decipher, and it's hard to cipher them out. It's not my job to do so. Point being, they have demonized a lot of this practice of becoming one with nature, and they have taught that it is the practice of idol worship. And that's simply not the case. When we read the Bible from a godly, spiritual perspective, we recognize that all things in this world created are of God, and God exists in all of those things. And we can certainly glorify aspects of God over other aspects of God, and we can even single them out so intensely that we raise them above others, and we idol worship aspects of God and forget that God is the whole picture. We are God. And when we allow ourselves to be led by the collective intellectuals instead of the collective spirits, we might suffer a lot of unconscious clenching in our bodies. We might act like a lunatic. We might feel like we need to crush other people. But the fact of the matter is, if we think about those tense spaces in our tissue like rocks, and inside a rock lives crystals and minerals, gold, diamonds. And what do we need to retrieve that treasure from the rock? We need constant flow of water. We need to soften underneath that flow of water so that the tides can pull those precious treasures from the rock and bring them up to shore. The word for a spiritual servant is bodhisattva in the Sanskrit language. And you'll see that my website is me.yoga. That is EMM, my name, reversed, me.yoga, which yoga means union. I see myself as Emmy today. I am a diligent servant of a God who is gracious. I reside in a spacious residence, a grand hall of my own creation, and I get to invite people and energies into this space that I want to mesh with, and I get to expel people, energies I don't want to share space with. Thank y'all for showing up in this space with me today. I appreciate every single one of you who tunes in, who likes, who follows, who comments. If you're not ready to do any of those things yet, that's okay too.